So I've just been told by the Speaker that I won't be taken into today's debate. Not for the first time, too many speakers and not enough time to discuss it. So here's what I would have said if I had got a chance to speak in the Brexit debate this afternoon in the House of Commons. Scientists tell us that a sign of intelligence in a living organism is its ability to moderate its behaviour in the light of experience. By that measure, it would seem that we have got a parliament with some intelligence, but a prime minister who appears to be exhibiting none. It is really difficult now to understand what part of the word no Theresa May does not understand. By a majority of 230 and then again by a majority of 149, her withdrawal proposal has been rejected. Now you would think that any sane person would think, well, I'm not going to get this through, so I should accept that and I should change tack and try and build a different deal. And if she really doesn't want to do that, then get out of the way and let someone else do it. But no, not this Prime Minister. This Prime Minister seems to think that despite the fact that her withdrawal agreement has been heavily, overwhelmingly defeated, not once but twice, she wants to come back for a third go next week and try it again. And I find that just so arrogant and irresponsible, to the extent that, as I said in the last video, I think Theresa May has now become part of the problem. And I think until she moves on, it's difficult to see how we can get past this impasse. Now, the main debate this afternoon is about whether or not we extend Article 50. And it's quite clear that there is no point in my mind in extending Article 50 just for technical reasons for a couple of months to try and get all the T's crossed and the I's dotted on the withdrawal agreement, because we are nowhere near having even agreed the principles of a withdrawal agreement. So we need a long extension. I don't think it should be time limited. I think we should just ask the European Union to allow us to suspend Article 50 for as long as it takes to resolve the issue. But it most certainly must be long enough to scrap the failed red lines that the Prime Minister has insisted on, and to begin to see if it's possible to construct a new political consensus that would command a majority support in the House of Commons. Now, I'm against Brexit, Scotland's against Brexit, but actually 2 years ago the SNP offered a compromise position in a document called Scotland's Place in Europe, which is still available online. We suggested that a way of honouring the referendum result and the UK leaving the European Union, but without it being a catastrophe, would be to retain the economic relationships we have with the European Union and to stay in a European trading framework within the customs union and the single European market. That compromise was thrown back in our faces at the time. The government wasn't even prepared to enter into discussions with the Scottish Government about it. So the time for compromise came and passed. But we may be in a situation where it now proves impossible to agree what the Prime Minister's been working on, and we may be able to force the government to actually scrap those red lines and begin a new debate. If that happens, then the SNP stands ready to engage in that debate. But I'll tell you this, that for myself, and I think for a lot of other people, our willingness to engage in finding a new political compromise is very much going to be dependent upon whatever comes out of the parliamentary discussion being put to the people in a further referendum on the question, so that people get to decide really whether or not they want to go ahead with Brexit on the basis that Parliament has agreed, or simply to stick with the status quo, which to my mind is the best possible relationship with the European Union being a full member of it. Now, I don't know if we're going to get there. We will see next week, but one would hope that if we vote to extend Article 50 tonight, we can begin the process of trying to go down a different road than the Prime Minister has gone in recent months. Because, the truth is that the Prime Minister from the word go has been concerned not to build a political consensus, but simply to try and keep the Tory party together. She's actually got herself into a position of trying to appease hard right fundamentalists in her own party who are so anti-EU that for them it's almost become a political fetish that they exercise without care for the consequences that it might have. They will never agree to any agreement, not one that the European Union agrees to anyway, almost by definition. So it's time to ditch that minority people who I think represent a very small minority of the British public and certainly don't represent the Scottish public. Time to leave them on the sidelines and begin to construct a new political consensus. And of course, if all of that happens and we do have another Brexit referendum, and it is the case that the United Kingdom still wants to leave the European Union, but Scotland does not, then what is absolutely important is that Scotland gets the right to make its own decision, and we have another referendum on Scottish independence.